my brother wore like a trench coat and had a pinnacle, and and they told him they couldn't wear his pinnacle to school. And my mom was like, my mom's a pagan lesbian hippie, so she was like, no one can wear crosses then. Like, if you want him to take it off, everyone takes off all their religious stuff, so fuck you. But I mean, but we had to go through that, like, little metalhead kid, I was a little metalhead kid, and so, we were blamed for everything, even though we were the ones that were kindest and, having decent grades.
Usually what I find.
Yeah. It's usually the ones that look the freakiest that are the nicest. In my experience, it's the clean cut ones that are usually doing all the drugs and
guys, people get away with the stuff because they can get out of the trouble. It's like
but the satanic panic stuff. I mean, they still happen. It happens now. It'll happen every generation. It's a new thing. There was comic books in the 50s, right?
Yeah.
In role playing in the 80s,
yeah.
Tricia Pulling created the bag, bothered about Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah.
And because her son had committed suicide, she blamed him on his games, which had nothing to do with it. I mean, people who knew the kid. And she basically made a career out of going to police organizations and talking to them about the dangers of Dungeons and Dragons and getting all these cops worked up about the occult and D&D and your kids playing D&D. So it was really just a money making on it. It's ridiculous.
Did you guys do any kind of damage control with that at all?
Well, this was mainly in the 80s. By the time of the 90s, I think more and more people realized what a joke she was, and so it didn't really affect us. We ignored it too.
Yeah.
Well, I remember my freshman year in college.
Until Colorado.
Oh, well, in college.
Yeah.
But I remember in college, my freshman year, these guys, kids we met, we were playing superhero role-playing games, Champions, and we were getting into that. And then they went home during the break, and their mother got all nervous because she had seen Mazes and Monsters on television. If anybody hadn't seen that, Tom Hanks.
That's like one of his first films.
Yeah, exactly. And he basically goes nuts and thinks he's an elf character.
Yeah.
Now we can watch Bone Tomahawk. See how they like that.
All right, well, I'll hit the center seat next. Looking at your work that you completed 25 years ago, what do you think your younger self misunderstood about art and illustration?
Wow, that's an interesting question. I think it all boils down to you don't really realize where you are at any one time. Like, I could always look back at stuff I'd done 6 months prior and go, God, did I drop? I mean, I felt like I was so much better than when I was doing 6 months before. And even getting into, like, looking back at even Hellblazer covers and things where I felt like I'm playing in the big leagues. I'm playing against all these people, these peers of mine that I respected and look up to and influenced by, so on and so forth, feeling like I was carrying my weight. But I look back at it now compared to stuff that I do now, and I'm like, oh my God, that stuff looks amateur to me now. And it just builds up over time. I think about every 5 years I make some evolutionary kind of step in my own career head, and it's kind of shocking to look backwards and see. I used to be kind of like appalled by it, but like, ooh,
Right.
didn't appreciate it.
You're like taking it personally.
But I learned over the years too to kind of like to just like settle for warts and all, and just being okay with it because it's just a mark of who I was then, and maybe my perception was different, but at the time, so was everything else. And everything kind of moves in a direction. So that would be the biggest thing I can think of. It's just stylistic differences between those times. There's a gulf where one time they stopped making the brush I really liked, and I couldn't find another brush that I liked that could do the same thing, and I switched to a Crowquill, a dip pen, and that changed my style to a degree. And I thought it would be jarring, I wouldn't like it, but I really just loved it. When I first started using real tools,
right,
stepping away from tech pens and that kind of thing, I tried a Crowquill, I tried a pen, but I didn't know anything about nibs or anything like that, so I just had some big, clunky, bulky nib, and snagging on things. I just didn't have the control with it that I wanted, and so I just kind of cast it aside, and the brush seemed like the next best option. And I had a book, The Art of Al Williamson, who, that was my master class in learning how to work with a brush. And, you know, I met him a couple times later, and when I first met him, I said, thank you for teaching me how to use the brush. And he goes, I don't really remember you. It wasn't really you, it was your book, Art and Knowledge. And he's like, oh, well, thank you. You know, he was a great student. But, you know, it's strange because looking back, there are times when I want to find a brush and just really kind of go back to that, especially that original, that kind of vampire style. Because I was asked to come back at the 25th anniversary. Shane Priest found me, and I did a bunch of new work for the 25th anniversary edition, and then some additional, even more new work for another version of that, World of Darkness. And there's no, like, at the time I did the vampire stuff, I used this stuff it's called a couple things. Some people call it craft tint board, some people call it duo shade, which is what it says on the paper, duo shade. And it's like a zipatone. It's like a pattern in the paper, but this is in the paper. You don't have to like peel it, stick it, cut it. It's in the paper, and you brush it on with developer. And so I was able to take that instead of just like in the old days when they used this paper, like in the EC days. I say old days, but really it was that long ago. Artists would use it, like John Severin would use it, and he would be like, things in the foreground he would darken, like, and so that would all just be that dark tone. Things over here would be all in this middle tone. And so they just used it to kind of separate things like that, but I was kind of painting with it. I was using it as like a half tone. And I didn't really know what I was doing at first. I saw a couple things that got turned into Shadowrun. And they were just Faster was just starting to launch that series at Gen Con that year. And so we're kind of on the 6 month other side of it, trying to, you know, create all the artwork. And the only thing, when I got my assignment, the only art they had in was by Mark Nelson, who did that first Aliens comic for Dark Horse with that same paper technique. I mean, wow, groundbreaking at the time. He just kind of resurrected it from the ashes. No one was using that stuff at that time. It was just going by the way of the dodo. And when I picked it up, I just kind of followed my nose with it. And started with Shadowrun stuff, but the Shadowrun stuff was what led Mark Ryan to send me a mail, or a letter to say, please will you draw our game, Mr. Bradstreet, we love your Shadowrun stuff. And I was like, yeah, it was just the perfect job at the perfect time. Yeah. It was lightning in a bottle for White Wolf too. So, I mean, it was just one of those. And nobody told me it's never gonna happen. You know, like, well, it rarely happens. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, stylistically, it's just a growth thing, an evolution thing, and I can't help but look back at stuff and see the less practiced, the less technically adept version of myself. But thankfully, I've embraced it.
How long do you think it took you to really embrace the idea of like, I'm still learning? As opposed to you hit something and this is great and you're like all into it.
I was
not thinking about the next step.
I luckily never felt that way. To me, it's all learning. You never stop learning. I had a couple of people that I worked with back in the 80s, late 80s. They were artists and they were trying to get work, and I was working in games. I introduced them to a few clients and they started getting work. And one of the guys was a really good friend of mine at the time, and he just kind of hit a point where he stopped trying to do anything better. He stopped growing. And I was still on this trajectory like this, and he started to create some sour grapes because I was getting opportunities that he wasn't. And he showed me a job he did, and instead of being able to just take the criticism, like, because it wasn't criticism. I'm not that kind of a person. When young kids brings his artwork up to me, I don't sit there and pick it apart. I say, have you thought of this? Have you thought of this? Or what about this direction? Like, there's ways you could make this. You could take this even farther. And he just didn't want to hear it. Yeah. And so he stagnated and eventually stopped getting work and, out of the business. And unfortunately, it cost me a friendship somehow. His wife and I are still communicating, but we haven't talked in a long time. Because, we used to go up to Gen Con together. I really regret that friendship suffered because of that. But, you gotta always have your eyes open. all you gotta do is look at one artist that just blows your mind, and you just think like, how did you do that, you know? Like, you might understand it technically to a degree, but the technical starts in here. And there's, you know, like someone like Frank Rosetta is a big inspiration for me. You wouldn't notice that stylistically necessarily, but it's the unspoken things. There's an energy or there's something inside you, right?
The dynamic posturing. He understood how to make a still image look like it was moving.
He had a beast in him. That's how it came out on paper.
Yeah.
And everyone has their own unique filter like that. So I can be inspired by them and not copy them,
Yeah.
right? So you see someone whose work blows your mind and you know you won't ever aspire to be, how can you ever be that good? Well, all you can do is try, right? And then as you go, you run into, see more and more stuff. And I'm just so blown away by so many people's art that how could I ever think that I've hit some zenith? Yeah, no way. No way. It's always learning. It's the name of the game. It's like writers. There's no such thing as writing. It's rewriting. That's what it is.
Well, my friend Richard Cadry said the other day on Facebook, writing a book is like reading a book, except the book hates you. And I was like, yeah, that is so true.
And that's applicable, I think, across the board too. Like just with creative or with people that work in any kind of creative outlet, whether it's music or writing or art or whatever.
Well, for our lady on the end of the famous writer position, it's one of the better ones I could come up with to tie everything together for all you guys. You were already an established horror writer when you came to Light.
Yeah.
What, if anything, did you see from the outside that maybe everybody working there wasn't seeing in themselves or what they were doing?
You go famous life.
Well, I wasn't involved in the
Right.
gaming aspect of
Right.
it. I was more involved with the literature and the books and it's kind of hard to say because I think there was a little bit of when it came to editing, they knew how to edit games, but they didn't know how to edit literature. And I ended up having to do a lot of my own editing.
Were you before or after Steve Fagel got involved? I can never remember the year.
That was about I was there before Pagel got in, but predating maybe about a year.
Okay.
I don't know. Well, whatever happened to him?
I worked with him at Beach and Merlin and worked out of the White Wolf office for several years. He got out of the game for a little while, went back to Barnes & Noble.
Okay.
And ended up getting a store in Kansas City because he's from Kansas.
Okay.
Yeah, so he got a store back, but I have been seeing him popping up again in conventions. I don't think he's ever going to get back in the industry as far as this side of things. I think he just got burned by
That was.
I mean, him and Kevin, I think, really tried, but they were good at what they did individually. Kevin was a good artist. Fagel was a good editor, but running a business was not their strong.
You needed that third amigo, the business guy.
Yeah, and several of us that were involved with it were trying to get to that, but Steve is a little hard-headed, and that just kind of never happened.
Well, I had a different editor.
Okay. I just wasn't sure if, like...
Well, he wasn't an editor.
And he was the editor.
Yeah, he was bringing the legitimacy of the big buyer and all that, trying to...
He had been the book buyer of Beagle.
Yeah, he was more acquisitions.
Yeah.
And that was one of the things like it's like you're asking, oh, that's a name I haven't heard or thought about in decades. And it's like, what happened to them? Okay, but I had a female editor, and she was pretty good. She was young, and then she had a baby, and then I was kind of like left to.
Remember her? The baby?
I can see her face plain as day. I want to say Stacy.
Staley.
Staley.
Brown.
Yeah. I figured that was. Yeah, I know her very well because she's the daughter of Mark Miller, who was
Right. Rattler.
Yeah. Game Design Workshop. That's where I got my first job in this world.
No, and then I kind of like got cut off and floated away. And,
Our kid's in a band now, actually. That
And,
was right nothing wrong with it. I can't remember
the,
Staley?
her kid.
the baby,
right.
He
the
was
baby.
in a band that had a write-up in Rolling
Yeah,
Stone.
it's always disconcerting to, you say, oh, how's your baby? And they go, oh,
Yeah.
he just graduated from college. He's getting his master's.
It shocked me in a way because Mark and his wife were very straight-laced, very Midwest conservative. I mean, not conservative in every way, but I mean, just in terms of how they live. You know,
Yeah.
like having a rock star for a grandchild, man.
Well,
shake the wall.
I think he's one that I think the kind of music is that kind of Mumford and Sons kind of thing.
Americana.
Yeah, I should have gone straight to hard rock.
Americana.
Yeah.
So, like Neil Young or.
Kind of more roots.
I could look him up, but I don't remember.
But no,
But this isn't,
That's something I didn't know.
yeah, I
That's really cool.
did a lot, but the thing was with A Dozen Black Roses, back in 2011, I think this was just as the White Wolf of Starks was getting bought by the Finnish guys.
actually, Icelandic.
Icelandic.
CCTV.
And,
Good folks.
and,
That's one thing.
and I contacted Stewart and said, is it possible for me to get the rights back to, because this is the ebooks we're finally breaking news, so I'd like to put out the Sun Blue, A Dozen Black Roses. He said, yeah, you can get the rights back, just take out all the, vampire, the magic, masquerade stuff, and the werewolves, okay.
And you have the key.
Yeah, it wasn't that hard because I didn't use a lot of it to begin with.
Who
And,
all knew that?
so I rewrote it and it's been out in ebook form, for about, Jesus, 14 years now.
Pretty good, huh?
Yeah, and, there's I put out a print on demand. I got the, through, Amazon. Sometimes you have to work with the devil.
It's all about visibility.
Yeah, and as of this week, there's now an audio book version
Oh, that's cool.
of A Dozen Black Roses.
Did you get Lance Anderson to read it?
No, I've got some, like I have money. Yeah, I use the free version of it that Audible does, because, I can't afford to pay anybody to do
That's where you
anything.
gotta work on those relationships you've cultivated over the years.
Yeah, but they still want to get paid.
Well, there's some people.
Gas is expensive now.
But I got some nice young lady read it, and she did a pretty good job. She does the voices.
So it's a single reader.
A single reader, yeah. As most of it is nowadays. I was kind of looking at Wilfred Hyde-White's son, Alex, Mr. Fantastic from the Fantastic. But I was not aware that Wilfred Hyde-White was his father.
Yeah.
Distinguished British actor, yes.
Yeah, and like My Fair Lady.
You only know this old.
Yeah. Apparently he had game, but yeah, he's the other guy who isn't Rex Harrison.
He's Lord Greystoke and he's Christopher Lambert's grandfather.
And no, that was Sir Ralph Richardson.
Yeah.
Oh, that was it Ralph Richardson?
Yes, that was like the last thing he did before he died. No, he died. Sir Hyde-White died during the late 70s, early 80s. I think one of the last things he did was like on television was Columbo. So,
There's a couple of people that can claim that, I think.
yeah, he was in The Loved One with Robert Morley.
For Robert Morley. He's in the Wilfred Hyde-White. Soon to the
Yeah,
corridor.
yeah. Occasionally on microphones. But yeah, having to getting the rights back to some of my stuff is it's good. I mean, mainly, you know, I
Did
did.
you encounter much resistance trying to get stuff like that back that's kind of been out of the public eye for a while?
Well, most of my contracts allowed me to reprint stuff that I did that was work for hire as long as it was in my own
You just set it
collections.
up right the first time?
Yeah.
Okay, that's cool.
And basically nowadays, hey, if Anthropic can rip them off, why not me? You know, I mean, in fact, I'm part of the Anthropic settlement. I just, you know, I've got money coming, I just don't know when or how much.
Yeah, the win thing is always the wild card.
Yeah.
Through all the processes and stuff.
Yeah, but yeah, I was part
Class
of,
action.
yeah, well, I was one of the 5, you know, someone apparently liked my shit, enough to have hired it for their, you know, me, and a lot of, I went and looked at some friends, and, you know, a lot of Joe Lansdale, Stephen King, Neil Gaiman, a whole bunch of people that, you know, I needed, you know, they got, I ended up with like, I had 12 works that were pirated. One got yanked because of the work for hire I did for back then Marvel, but now Disney, and Disney sued me separately. So,
We got
No mouse money for you.
yeah, well, basically, that's, and I gotta say, when you go into the business, especially back now, it's like, it may be a day and age where, you know, almost every author is, you know, writing someone else, you know, for intellectual property that belongs to someone else. And it's pretty rare that, I was looking at all that, and it goes, yeah, there were just a few people, you know, a handful of us really had our own, you know, copyrights. And all of that, but I had them printed out. I had to have them sent to me, because I had to do that for another lawsuit involving Whitewell years ago.
That's where you make a little money and everyone comes
It's a
out.
strange underworld, I think.
And, you know, I'm glad you got your rights back from Stu before, because CCP sold all that to a Swedish company.
Well, they never owned some of it.
Right.
Do you know what the Swedish guy?
Paradox is the umbrella
Okay, so-
company, but they're now rebranded as White Wolf, and they're using the Disney defense. If we brought the assets, not the liabilities, and hence I'm not getting royalties on any of my novels and stuff.
Sanjay's name is Caravan. I haven't seen him in a long time, but he always loved vampire. Like,
They love
I
it.
think he's been after
They just don't love us who make it.
Right.
Yeah. Fred.
Yeah, I have no idea who's in control of what now.
David Conan, like Robbie Howard stuff.
That's Embracer.
Is it what, signature, heroic signatures? Heroic signatures?
Yeah.
Yeah, I just did a lead story for them,
Cool.
so, and, yeah, they're doing a lot of work with Titan.
You just gotta flow wherever it ends up going, because these companies will come and go.
Yep.
And they usually end up somewhere, hopefully.
I'm amazed that
hands
there's any
are true to it.
copyright to be had on Conan, to tell you the truth, because that was a really, it's like, anyone goes, I've got the copyright to Cthulhu, what the hell you have?
Yeah, exactly.
No one had it, he is public domain, motherfucker. And technically, I mean, I've been a Robert E. Howard fan for a long time, and I knew, actually, I met Phil Sprague to camp and talked to him, and the Cookendales, the little old ladies that Robert E. Howard's father ended up, they took care of him, and so he left them his copyrights. His dead son's copyrights to these little old ladies, and Glenn Lord, was their literary agent. I met Glenn years ago. All these people now dead and gone. And I still don't understand how the hell anyone but Roy Thomas has the copyright to Red Sonja.
little confusing, yeah.
Did the
So,
movie get around to that somehow, or?
oh, some dickhead owns the rights to it, so.
Oh, I see.
And, yeah, I say that having written, read Sonia, graphic novel that he was involved with, and he felt the need to rewrite. And, yeah, and after that I said, I don't care, I'm never gonna work, if he's attached to this property, I'm never gonna work.
So they're trying to claim partial credit for creating Wolverine.
No, that's not, no, Roy Thomas was different.
Okay.
I mean, this is a guy whose father was an attorney, and he got somehow, I still don't understand how he managed, and he got it after his father died, and he inherited the rights to Red Sonja from that. And I've yet to figure out how that happened.
It's a bizarre set of circumstances, opportunistic.
So
you know.
when does Conan enter public?
He's taking public
Yeah,
now.
right.
Yeah, the stories are, but the character isn't, just like Mickey Mouse.
Well, you can do Steamboat Willie, you just can't do Wolverine.
Yeah, well,
So
Conan,
you can work in Hyboria, you just can't have Conan present.
well, it's more like the physical interpretation of Conan.
I see.
Yeah, he's trademarked.
Well, to get
Yeah.
all three of you together now on a question, and originally I had the two of you, but I think it will work well with Nancy as well. Artists, especially like Tim, have helped us find a lot of the visual language, if you will, of White Wolf and Vampire and that sort of thing. And while you helped find a lot of its themes, a lot of the gameplay, Nancy's written extensively in the vampire world. So, for the three of you, do you think artists shape a writer's vision more often, or do writers shape the artist's vision more often than we do in projects?
Can I start?
Whichever one of you jump in.
I would definitely say writers influence the artist, because that's kind of how it works, in my experience. Now, I always loved that dynamic, but I also thought, wouldn't it be a great dynamic if we reversed the roles? And so I really love that concept. Now, well, my answer to that is the writers do,
Right.
because that's kind of where it starts. And especially when you're working with a writer that's kind of like wide open to interpretation. But I thought, wouldn't that be a great thing to kind of reverse the roles? So I, had a bunch of art that I just kind of done for myself, and I'm like, I'm just going to take this art to stack it like 10 pieces to 10 different writers and see if they'll write a story around it. Pick a piece and just write a story around it. And it was just one of the most coolest experiences of my life. And so it was like really kind of neat being on the other side of that and seeing what they did with it. It
Was
was
that
pretty damn cool.
specifically for you, or is that shared somewhere?
No, this is specifically for me. I haven't published it.
Are you going to?
Eventually, I still have 2 stories to get back. But
That's cool, that's very cool.
I very much
Reminds me
like
of like Slam.
the idea was to publish it because I kind of thought it was an interesting kind of from a project standpoint. But it's been slow for any number of reasons, from a pandemic to depression to moving across country, those just life basically. But that will see the light of day for sure.
Well, it's that whole, and the subculture that came from. So it all just kind of,
Works
like
together.
it's a gumbo.
It's always the
basically.
best inspiration because there's no connective tissue visually.
Yeah,
Well, I mean, even writing, I mean, because you're visualizing it as you're reading it. With music, it's a feeling, right?
yeah.
So, I mean, how do you can't, no one's gonna claim you stole that from Iggy Pop, right? So it's great for us, we'll put it that way.
Yeah, although one thing I've been toying with is trying to create maybe a streaming anthology series based on my favorite songs that have a supernatural or horror theme to it, like Roland Evans Thompson Gunner.
Mm-hmm.
That's it right there. You just write it out.
Album Nick Cave, River Ballads.
Camouflage.
House by the Sea. Genesis, have you ever, are you familiar with that one?
Yeah, they were in the very weird phase.
Yeah,
Their early 70s stuff, especially when they were on television.
The two lead singers are,
yeah, yeah, when Peter Gabriel was still with them.
yeah, theatrical as hell.
Yeah, or, I'm just thinking of what the others, the gun clubs, Jack on Fire, things like, or Nick Cave's, you know, the Red Right Hand, things like that. It's that feeling of menace, of sinister intent, to quote Creedence Clearwater.
It always impresses me because when you can
Sinister purpose.
evoke such a tangible thing with just music, like to just almost world build in a way, is just massively impressive.
Speaking of which, when you were for all this, how much art did you get to see that may have influenced what you did, or was it purely you're just lashing out with your brain?
Well, I mean, all the developers had their own influences and stuff, but I, more than most of them, was really the comics. I had wanted to be a comic book artist coming up and stuff, so I studied all those guys and knew a lot of those on the pages.
You were a student of the game, baby.
Yeah, exactly. And so all that stuff was in my head too. But the pipeline for the way White Wolf worked was the books that were done. It was around, I guess, once the first draft was in, the developers, or Andrew for Vampire, would then write up a suggestion for the cover art. And that would go to the art department, and then they would assign someone out for it. And by the time the second draft, that's when you had to go through, figure out how many pieces were in this book based on the page count, and pull out little sections of text, saying, hey, this would be a good picture, this would be a good picture, and that would go to Rich and the art department, and they would figure out who would do that art. In terms of influence, I don't know how many people ever saw the Aaron Spelling TV series Kindred the Embrace,
Yes.
which was
Had it on
actually
VHS.
an official White Wolf license, although they had no control over it. But
He
the
was
story,
brought to be a producer, but I don't think he did. But such a paid.
they actually asked him to get off the set.
Did they?
Nothing screams vampire like she's on the
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But you're partly responsible for that, because an assistant producer found the vampire book, looked at that art, blew him away, and then he read it and then he figured
The Nosferatu piece even makes it, is in the opening, the opening title sequence. And it's just how, I mean, like, you know, everyone goes out for whatever reasons, you know, no one lasts at the top forever, unless you're Tom Cruise. And that's only because, listen, he may be nuts, but he's really nice to crew. Couldn't have a nicer guy. But, yeah, it's interesting. Very.
Well, since we're running up on it, I will hit with one last one for all three of you, since you're all three famous. Originally, the question was, what was a popular misconception that people had about White Wolf back then, or what it was about? But what do you think is a popular misconception that people have about you as individuals, as artists, as creators?
I don't think anybody thinks about me at all. I don't know.
Well, then what do you think they have a misconception about your work?
Well, going back to White Wolf, I think there was a misconception that we were all goths. That, you know, that we were all hanging
That
out
was certainly not true.
at the masquerade and just pouring and smoke.
I think that's absolutely true of me too. I think people were often surprised that I'm not covered in tattoos and piercings. Maybe because, you know, back when we were doing Shadowrun, you know, I was really into this book called the research book.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah. Modern print.
Yeah,
And I got a lot of inspiration from that stuff and started to do like tribal tattoos on a lot of characters, and no one was really doing that at the time. I could think of anyway. And then it was funny because then I started to see Braun start to do that kind of stuff.
Oh, yeah.
You started to see it creep in. But that was just, you know, that was the era where all that kind of just came to the forefront. It's like the Seattle grunge thing. It's the same. It's a parallel.
It's time had come.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, it's so funny. I felt to try to give my daughter this perspective of the, you know, before 1990, tattoos just weren't really acceptable the way they are now. I mean, not really.
Unless you had been in the Navy.
Right, exactly. It was considered taboo, you know, it was, you mark up your body as either prison tabs or Navy tabs, right?
pink I have on me is still under clothing because that's just how it was.
Yeah,
There was a-
I'm covered in tattoos, but t-shirt and shorts will cover all of it. I just grew up with that. You know, like you have to make sure your options are open when you're older.
Right,
You know,
they won't hire you. if
You
they
gotta make
see
sure that
pink.
you have a job with a uniform.
Yeah, you
Like-
can't walk around like you did.
Yeah, I actually booked him.
Unless you work for fashion.
Unless you're gonna be your own show.
Yeah. Yeah, I booked a big red cat, for a show at the Star Bar years and years ago, back when.
Our bar.
Yeah.
Ah,
Yeah,
they're not-
yeah, my home, away from home. Still there, but
It's different.
Yeah, it's different
It's
over
not the
here.
dive, it's not the dive that it used to be, which was classic.
It's
Like
not
every year,
yes,
everything.
but it's a
Yeah.
clean
It's got the
dive.
nostalgia, but it has definitely
yeah.
changed.
The last show I saw there was Link Ray.
Now, yeah, that's, you know, but yeah, with research, I met Mark Pauline, when I was in San Francisco on my honeymoon with my first husband. And that's where I picked up,
Just around the club, went to clubs or something.
no, we were just at, we were at, somehow we got invited to, some kind of event, and he was there, and because at that time, I was, Sunglasses After Dark had come out literally 3 months before. So people, I went to San Francisco, and I was meeting up with people that I knew, like on Paul Reedy's, and I was signing at Dark Carnival or whatever, and I think it was one of the guys at Dark Carnival. Yeah, they're having research and having this thing, and it was McGreedy's and what.
Frisco is that place too, where events of that nature are commonplace. You
Yeah.
find subculture events,
Yeah,
and people, creative people that, Steve Lealoha,
Yeah.
his brother's like a rock photographer. There's so many people that came out of the breeds, like you said, and, it's like we were just talking
Jello,
about
yeah.
Seattle being a place where a certain group of musical people launched. Frisco is where a lot of artists launched.
yeah, but
Still
yeah,
watch.
I met Mark Pauline, he's like, yeah, man, Mark, what you know? And he sticks out his hand, and his thumb is his toe, because he blew his thumb off, building one of his machines.
Start from your own design.
Yeah, and like you said, he was like hitting this thing, and it was like kind of like a shell.
Gotta bleed for your art, man.
And he was like, even as you think it was like Bugs Bunny, and he's like, what am I doing? and it blew off his thumb,
Oh,
and then he
wow.
replaced it with his toe. And
Why would you need a thumb?
but you need a thumb.
And it has to have feeling sensation.
Yeah, and it serves the same purpose. But he was expecting me to be freaked out, but he was not aware that shortly before I was born,
You didn't know me very well.
my dad lost, got in an accident and it crushed part of his hand. He had one finger rebuilt, but his little finger, they said, well, we can rebuild it, but you won't be able to bend it. He says, I'm an arm mechanic. It'll just get ripped off. And so they said, okay, well, we'll cut it off here, so it was like ending right
You
there.
need a good knuckle.
And so I grew up thinking that at some point, every man, at some point, the tip of that little finger is going to fall off.
There's a lot of exotic that want
Yeah, because my dad would do stuff like this. So I grew up with like a guy who was missing part of his hand. So I just went, yeah. Yeah, you had an accident.
toe finger.
Yeah.
All right, well, we appreciate all you guys being out for the panel today, and I'm sure our throngs and crowds here do as well, so.
Thanks for
Now, buy them all a drink, and I'll tell you more things.
And we'll reveal all the secrets.
All the secrets.